Live from the Washington, D.C. area. It's the Inside Scoop, all the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover. And tonight I have joining me Karen Corbett Sanders, who's a Fairfax County School Board member from Mount Vernon. Karen, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, Lindsey, it's a pleasure. I loved coming into the studio and talking about the exciting things happening in our schools on behalf of our students, families, and staff. So thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you too for your service on the school board. I know it is sometimes a thankless job, but thank you for what you're doing every single day for our students and for our parents and for our county.
Well, I appreciate your nice way of welcoming. It is a job that I think is the most important job I've ever had. I come to the school board as somebody who spent over 25 years in industry. I retired as a business executive. I was the Vice President of International Policy and Reg worldwide for Verizon. And I retired and decided to focus on education because if I can do good things for a corporation, I certainly can do good things for our students and families.
Oh, that's great. Now, I know you're going to be up for re-election in November. Tell us a little bit about kind of your proudest accomplishments having served on the school board so far. And I'd love to then go into what issues you want to work on if you're reelected.
Oh, that would be great. You know, a lot of people don't know about the complexity of the Fairfax County Public Schools. There are almost 189,000 students. There's 196 schools and centers. We operate the largest bus service in the United States outside of Greyhound, and we're the 10th largest school system with a $3 billion budget.
Wow.
Just those students with disabilities who have IEPs are 24,000, which is equal to Arlington County schools.
Wow.
So as a school board member, you have to be able to address complex issues, manage budgets, increase transparency so that people know what you're doing, and every day keep focused on student success. And so as a school board member representing one of the most diverse areas of Fairfax County, I've been very excited about a number of different initiatives. We've increased the number of pre-K seats in our area, increased it by over 160 students. We've also introduced advanced academic programming at each one of our Title I schools. We've made major revisions to our discipline policy to address disproportionality in discipline and creating a stronger partnership with parents in working with them to address behaviors in the classroom. At the middle school, we've invested in after-school programming, and perhaps one of the most exciting pieces is really changing the way we approach high school and creating multiple pathways to opportunities for our students. So some of those pathways include obviously going on to college,
right,
as well as creating more opportunities for career and technical education and professional and pre-professional certifications. Just this year, we're starting a certified nursing associate program.
That's great.
We have emergency medicine, and at one of our most diverse schools, Mount Vernon High School, we introduced the first dual enrollment cybersecurity program in partnership with Northern Virginia Community College. I've been working really closely with Northern Virginia because when I was in high school here in the Mount Vernon schools, they actually didn't have advanced placement courses. So they sent me to Northern Virginia Community College in the old Quonset huts in Alexandria City. So I knew that the community college experience was a great opportunity for our high school students to get college credit, to get experience. So we're working with them. We have an MOU to establish an early college and workforce development center at the original Mount Vernon High School. And so that's
great.
Really exciting for our kids in the area because there's no community college down in that area.
You've really focused on giving students incredible opportunities and not just one pathway, but multiple pathways to consider. And you had mentioned earlier even a pathway to service. Can you talk a little bit about that pathway? Because that's something that I think is incredible, whether it's to public service or maybe military service. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, there are 11,500 students in Fairfax County Public Schools who are members of military families. So I've spent a lot of time creating more emphasis and support systems for those students. We also recognize at graduation students who make a commitment to either going into the military service directly or as ROTC students in college, or going on to the military academies. And we have hundreds of students in the Mount Vernon area alone who are pursuing that. I've also developed an MOU with Fort Belvoir. And that is an MOU that provides workforce experiences for students on the base. And so many of our students may choose to either go directly on to college or work for a few years, and so they will be able to get those opportunities there in not only the service industries, but we're also working on creating opportunities in the trades so that they can get apprenticeships. Most recently, I'm a member of the Communities of Trust, and I attend their meetings so that we can build stronger relationships between our public service agencies and the schools. So we are also promoting those opportunities in our college and career centers.
That's great. I mean, you have put such an emphasis on diversifying those opportunities for our students. And is that going to be also one of your priorities when you're elected again in November, to continue that work?
It has to be a priority because our kids come to us from so many different backgrounds, and they have so many different measures of what they consider success, or the pathways that they want to pursue. Some of them need to earn money right away, and so we create those pathways for them. Some of our students want to explore additional careers, and that's why our academy programs are so important.
Right.
And what we just launched about a week ago with the governor and Northern Virginia Community College was the Pathways Initiative, which is really to educate our students starting in middle school about the multiple pathways of opportunity available to them. So it's constantly reinventing how we engage our students and their families about the wonderful opportunities available here in Fairfax County.
That's great. And I have heard you talk a lot about equity in education and working to make that a priority here in Fairfax County. Can you talk a little bit about making sure that we also ensure equity among our workforce, ensuring that we're able to hire diverse teachers? I know several years ago a study came out that questioned that. Can you talk a little bit about your work to make sure that Fairfax County does better in ensuring diversity?
Absolutely, Lindsay. This is an area that is not only a problem here in Fairfax County, across the state, but across the country. You may not know this, but I'm actually on the advisory board for the School of Education at Boston University, and I've actually been partnering with them to try to better understand how we can attract and retain teachers, and also create opportunities for Fairfax County to recruit from them. We've also focused on recruiting at our HBCUs. We send recruiting teams to Puerto Rico to recruit Hispanic teachers, and we're actually building our own. We have a Teach for Tomorrow program that we launched about 18 months ago. Now it's in every one of our high schools, where students that want to pursue teaching can get experience while they're in high school, and if they commit to being a teacher, they will get a signing letter, similar to how we sign sports athletes when they go off to college. We're signing teachers with the commitment to give them a job in 4 years.
That's fantastic. And on that same realm, teacher pay is a big issue, and I know everyone is very passionate about, and you hear so many stories that many times teachers who who work in Fairfax County sometimes can't afford to live in Fairfax County. Can you talk a little bit about what the school board has done in terms of teacher pay and ensuring that we pay our teachers what they deserve?
Well, when I came on the board 4 years ago, we were losing teachers to all of the neighboring counties. We were losing them because you could go across the border into Alexandria City or into Loudoun and make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more. And so the school board made a conscious effort in partnership with the Board of Supervisors to invest in our teachers. Now we have risen the teacher pay to be competitive, as well as protected their pensions, so that when a teacher retires in Fairfax County, they are able to retire and live in Fairfax County as well. But you know, Lindsay, it's not just our teachers. Our instructional assistants are also faced with real challenges in being able to live in Fairfax County. So this past year, as part of the budget cycle, I was thrilled to be able to get my colleagues' support to a 3-year commitment to bringing the IA scale back in line to where it was in the pre-recession period, which is that instructional assistants and PHTs who work with some of our most vulnerable students with disabilities are able to make 50% of a teacher's salary, because some of our IAs were making as little as $12 an hour.
Wow, wow. Well, let's shift gears a little bit to November. Tell us what you think is at stake in this election. It is a big election year every year here in Virginia, but tell us what you feel like is at stake this particular year.
You know, this year is an interesting year because the tone and tenor has changed. It's shifted. And I feel like the rhetoric which is going on and the emphasis on creating very negative rhetoric in our communities is one that is very divisive. And it's not the Fairfax County that I grew up in. It's a change that I hope that we're able to get through the election and rebuild, because the most important thing we can do is model positive behavior here in Fairfax County for all of our students.
That's fantastic. So for our viewers that want to learn more about you, can you tell us where they can go to find out more about you?
Well, they can call me because my phone number is listed on my website, or just go to the website www.karenforschools.com.
Thank you, Karen. We'll be right back.
And I can't change, even if I try, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul,
Estimated time, 47 hours.
they will beg,
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
they will plead.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking.
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls second.
Are you orange?
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Good evening. Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover. And with me for this segment, I have James Walkinshaw, who's running for County Supervisor here in Fairfax County in the Braddock District. Thank you, James, for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Lindsey. Great to be here.
Thank you, too, for running. I know that it's a sacrifice for you and your family, and want to thank you for having the courage to put your name on the ballot.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And tell us a little bit about what happened in your decision-making when you said, you know what, I'm going to run for office.
Yeah, so I've spent the last 12 years as an advisor to Jerry Connolly. So I've had a chance over those 12 years to work on a lot of local issues, work closely with the Board of Supervisors, and I learned that really the place where you can have the most impact on people's lives in tangible ways on our community is at the local level. So that's what got me excited about the potential of running for this position and led me to make that decision.
That's great. And your experience both as a congressional staffer, and I know you're very active in our community here in Fairfax County, how will that experience help you be a great supervisor here in Fairfax County?
Yeah, so in addition to my work with Jerry Connolly, I serve on the county's Council to End Domestic Violence, where I work to help create a countywide campaign called Make the Call to help victims of domestic violence get access to the services that they need. Working with the faith community, nonprofits, county staff. It was a great experience to see kind of how everything can come together and work to solve a problem in the community. I also serve on the board of my civic association in Ravensworth Farm, one of the largest civic associations in the Braddock District, so I've had a chance to work on all the quality of life issues from broken sidewalks to people not picking up after their dogs. So all the important things that you have to deal with in local government.
That's right. But it's all of those things, right, that affect our lives every single day.
That's right.
So your experience, not only on the Hill, but most importantly in our community, puts you in a really good position to know what the people of Fairfax County need and what they want in the future.
Yeah, I feel like what we need from our supervisor is someone who's going to be our neighborhood advocate. So someone who will go to work every day solving problems for individuals and neighborhoods. And the Braddock District really is a district of neighborhoods, established neighborhoods that have been around for a long time and have a strong civic culture. And they deserve someone who can go to work to be their advocate and solve their problems, and that's what I hope to do.
Absolutely. So when you're elected, what issues will you prioritize and champion for your district?
Yeah, so I mean the top issue is schools, making sure that every year the Board of Supervisors works with our school board to make the investments in our schools and teachers that we need. We want to keep the best teachers here in Fairfax County, make sure we have small class sizes, the classroom capacity that we need. So that'll always be my number one priority as supervisors, investing in our schools. Next to that, traffic and transportation.
Sure.
And I don't promise people that I'll solve our traffic problems in the first term, but I want to work on giving people more choices, helping them get out of their car by expanding VRE service, Fairfax Connector bus service, and pedestrian and bike paths throughout the Braddock District.
That's great. Well, as a mother of two little girls, thank you for making education
absolutely.
Top
It's
priority.
number one.
And you know, so many families move to Fairfax County because we do have great schools. Tell me a little bit how you'll work with the school board to ensure that they have the resources and funding they need to make the important decisions, whether it's about teacher pay or expanding classrooms or even textbooks in some parts of the county.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm very fortunate to have from my previous work is good relationships, working relationships with most of our existing school board members. Our Braddock District School Board member, Megan McLaughlin, who's been an incredible advocate for our kids and schools and teachers, is a close friend of mine, and I would work very closely with her to make sure that we have the resources we need. I think the key is that the two boards work together in a collaborative way. Sometimes there can be some tensions, but the key is working together collaboratively from the beginning of the budget process to the end of the budget process to make sure our schools get what they need.
That's great. Now, we talked a little bit about some local projects in your district that you really want to focus and prioritize on. Can you tell us a little bit about what those projects are and how you'll work to ensure that you can better those community areas for your district?
Yeah, so we have some exciting challenges coming at us in the Braddock District. You know, the main commuting thoroughfare, also kind of our community street, is Braddock Road.
Yes.
We have the blessing every day of tens of thousands of commuters coming from outside the Braddock District and coming through the Braddock District. But there is a good plan that Supervisor Cook and a citizen task force put together to improve Braddock Road, improve 17 interchanges, make 17 interchange improvements without widening. There'd be a lot of concern about widening and the impact on our neighborhoods along Braddock Road there. But we can significantly improve traffic flow by adding some turn lanes, making some spot improvements. I think it's a good plan. The county's now working on the final design and engineering, kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that plan. The challenge is we haven't yet secured state funding for construction, so we have the risk of having a project that's shovel ready but no money to buy the shovels. So the next Braddock supervisor will have to take on that challenge and hopefully make that happen. We just had some great news recently that there's a plan Supervisors Cook and McKay have put together to fund the dredging of Lake Akatink.
Yes.
And Lake Akatink is an incredible county asset, really. It's not just a Braddock District asset, but it's a Fairfax County asset. It's the county's only lakefront park that's accessible to underserved communities in and around the Beltway, and the challenge is that it's been filling up with sediment. So if we do nothing, by 2025, a lake that's now 3 or 4 feet deep will be 0 feet deep.
Wow.
And will be a swamp rather than a lake. We recently learned that there's a plan to fund the dredging of the lake and restore it to an 8-foot depth and do regular dredging to keep it at that depth. That's going to be a challenging plan because the logistics of that are tough. It's going to involve piping the sediment under Braddock Road and trucking it out. So there are going to be a lot of very legitimate questions about the impact of that on our local environment.
Sure.
So working through that project, which could take until 2025 to be completed, will be a big challenge for the next Braddock District Supervisor. We also have in the Braddock District the oldest rec center in Fairfax County, the Audrey Moore Rec Center, named after the late Audrey Moore, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and Annandale District, before it was named Braddock District Supervisor. It was built in 1977, and there is a consultant study that has said you really can't renovate most of it. It's so out of date that much of it will have to be rebuilt from the ground up. So what I hope to do is very early next year form a citizen task force to envision what do we want the next version of the Audrey Moore Rec Center to look like. We have some great assets there now. It actually has the Park Authority's only pottery room is there at the Audrey Moore Rec Center, which is very popular. So we want to keep that or expand that. But what else would the community like to see there? So I think we need to start that brainstorming process with the entire community.
And a lot of these projects you're talking about really talk about the involvement that you're going to seek from your constituents, from county residents. How will you make working with residents a priority as you're working to better policy, maybe that we already have in Fairfax County, or work on these 3 important projects to better our future?
I think one of the most important, if not the most important job of any district supervisor is making sure that there is always a process, an inclusive process, to get community input and feedback on any major project or decision, whether that's a rec center, a transportation decision, a land use decision. Making sure that you're communicating with people. And I think our current supervisor does a great job of that. We have a Braddock Beacon monthly newsletter that's full of information that goes out, so that's something I want to continue. Making sure that there are community meetings on major projects so people have an opportunity in person to contribute their thoughts and feedback is really key. One of the things that I want to do is find ways to involve people in the decision-making process who can't make it out to a meeting at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, right? Because they're taking their kids to soccer practice or
sure.
working on homework or working a second job. So using technology, streaming town halls on Facebook Live and taking questions from people over Facebook, telephone town halls to include people, let them give their feedback from the comfort of their own home, making sure that we're doing everything possible to include the entire community in the decision-making process.
That's great. Well, one issue I would like to talk to you about, because we've had a lot of interest on this show in terms of affordable housing. Can you tell me a little bit about whether it's a priority for you, and if so, do you think currently the county budget reflects affordable housing as the priority that it should be in our county?
It absolutely is a priority for me, and I can tell you in the Braddock District, in order to afford the average one-bedroom market-rate apartment, you need to earn $61,000 a year.
Wow.
And we know through the data that tens of thousands of people don't. So they're struggling to afford housing in the Braddock District. So we have to do more. In terms of the budget, I'd like to see us increase the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from half a penny to at least one full penny, doubling the amount annually that goes into that trust fund to preserve and acquire affordable units. The other piece of it I think that we can do more of is finding opportunities to take advantage of unused county land to build affordable housing. So we have some success stories in the Braddock District. Jerry Connolly led an effort to build a community called Residences at Government Center, which is near the county government center, the main government center building. And it was an unused piece of property, and we were able to offer a developer a good deal to come in and build workforce housing for teachers, firefighters, and police officers. It's an incredibly successful facility now with hundreds of people living there. We need to find more opportunities to do that. I also think any time that we're building a new county facility, government center, fire station, police station, we should be studying the feasibility for that location of co-locating affordable housing on site. Because if you're building a building that's 3 or 4 stories, it doesn't cost that much extra to add a 5th or 6th story.
Right.
It won't work in every case, but we should be examining it in every opportunity.
That's great. It's, you know, it has been a topic on this particular show. We've done many shows about affordable housing.
Yeah.
And so I love to hear that it's a priority for you and will be once you're elected.
Absolutely.
And I know you're out in the community a lot right now at different events. What are you hearing are the main challenges that people are facing right now?
Yeah, well, the top issues are, like I said, schools and traffic, and then it's very common someone has a hyper-local issue, right?
Sure.
Potholes on their street, a sidewalk that's damaged, problems with stormwater management in their neighborhood. So as you know, climate change occurs and storms intensify and more development in Fairfax County, you see more of those challenges.
Absolutely. James, for our viewers that want to learn more about you and your campaign, tell us where they can go to find out more information about you.
Yep, you can go to my website. It's www.jameswalkinshaw.org.
Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for running. And please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I don't get on. But if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a
big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I
Right?
mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you...
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover. And this segment, I'm thrilled to have with me Buta Biberaj, who's running for Commonwealth's Attorney in Loudoun County. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And start out by telling our viewers, we have viewers from Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, all over the state. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Commonwealth's attorney's responsibilities are?
In the criminal justice system, actually the Commonwealth attorney's job is one of the hardest ones because they're responsible to the community, they're responsible to the accused, they're responsible to the victims, witnesses, law enforcement, the entire process. So what their job is actually to try to identify what charges to bring against somebody, who to bring them against, and how to handle the case. Do we offer any plea offers? How do we try the case? What recommendations do we make about somebody staying in custody pending a trial? And also what recommendations they make for sentencing if the person is convicted. So it's a pretty vast responsibility.
It's a very important position, absolutely. And you have so much experience that you are bringing to the table. Tell our viewers a little bit about that experience and how that will make you an advocate for the county and ultimately for the Commonwealth.
Okay. A prosecutor is what we call like a plaintiff's attorney. So if you do civil law, that's the person who initiates the case. So plaintiff's attorney and prosecutor are pretty much the same, other than the prosecutor focuses only on criminal law.
Right.
They start the case, they figure out what the investigation determines, what charges, again, how to proceed against the case, and then what witnesses and how to promote it and in front of the judge, and then what they do with that part of it. I've been practicing for 25 years, so I've done litigation on every level. So I've been a practitioner, and I've been a prosecutor of civil cases for 25 years. Within the last year, I was also a criminal prosecutor for the town of Herndon. So I've had that mix there. I've been a guardian ad litem, which is a position that judges pick attorneys who they can trust to protect the best interests of the juveniles as well as the elderly, people who are somewhat less able to present themselves in court.
Such an important position.
It is. I also had the opportunity to be a substitute judge for 12 years. So I've had the ability to be able to come to the criminal justice system from every angle and every aspect. So that, I think, gives me the best diversity to be able to say this is what our community needs based on the fact that I've met all of those needs. I've spent the entirety of my career protecting people from what someone else may be trying to do to take advantage of them. So that's what I believe I bring to the criminal justice system and the prosecutor's office, is to say that I've served in this role, I've served valiantly in the role, and I've been also very well respected by the community to be able to do that. And what I want to do is I want to bring a different lens to that, because our criminal justice system, in my opinion, has become what we call weaponized. That means that it's being used not for the good of the community, but merely for statistics, so that somebody can say, yes, I got a conviction. Conviction may be appropriate, but in all cases, it's not always the best outcome in a situation.
Sure.
Especially if we're talking about our emerging adults, young people who always are going to make some bad mistakes.
Right.
But if the mistakes are disastrous or violent, then maybe they should have an opportunity to go a different path so that they can maintain those opportunities for their careers in the future and be able to have a life that is a contributing one rather than just one that takes from the community. So I just got some ideas.
That's great. And you've started to kind of talk about your priorities. When you're elected, what areas are you really working to champion in Loudoun County?
I want to focus a lot on the following. One is if somebody's coming in within our criminal justice system and it's an addictive issue or it is a mental health issue, why are we incarcerating people? Right? Because, no offense, jail is not fixing anything.
Right.
To house somebody in Loudoun County in the adult detention center, it's $66,000 a year.
For one person?
One person.
$66,000 a year.
So I know you're a businesswoman. I'm a businesswoman. I've had my business in Leesburg for 25 years.
Right.
I can't take $66,000 out of my budget frequently and just keep tossing it, right? Because there's no return on my investment. If we don't start looking at the fiscal accountability of what we do in our criminal justice system, we are not going to be able to sustain being the most affluent community, the happiest community, the community that has awesome services or the ability to provide services, because we don't have the money. So we have to look at what is the true cost of incarcerating someone who is not violent. So if you've got a mental health illness or you have an addiction, why can't we take a portion of that money, invest it in services, bring you back into the community, or let you stay in the community so you have that support system, and then guess what? You're working. And if you're working, you're contributing to my tax base. If you're paying taxes, my schools have money, my officers have money, my roads have money. We now can pay for these services because we're sharing that responsibility. So that's what we want to be able to do, is to start with a different lens as to solution-based criminal justice. Not just the aspect of let's see what we can do to punish, because punish may work a portion, but it doesn't solve the problem. So we just want to be smart on crime rather than just being hard on crime, thinking that that is a solution, because it is not.
Right. And I like how you bring up mental health, because it is an issue that, quite honestly, as a Commonwealth, as a country, we haven't really addressed appropriately. Talk a little bit more about how, in your position, you can really affect policy when it comes to mental health and ensure that residents, not just in Loudoun County, but throughout the Commonwealth, get the care and services that they need.
My perspective is one of being holistic, community-based. Because again, as we talked about, if you incarcerate somebody, you're excluding them from the community, but they always have to come back.
Right.
Right? So when you start talking about policy, the policy that a Commonwealth attorney can effect is within the local establishment. So I intend to work with the Board of Supervisors. I intend to work with our Community Services Board. I intend to work with, obviously, our courts, our probation, to figure out how do we synergistically come together and have those services and have those check systems in place so that people are actually getting the services in a timely manner, so that they are being treated. Because if we don't do it from a global perspective, holistic perspective, there is not one entity or one agency that can do it. They just can't. From a state level, the power of the Commonwealth Attorney is pretty impactful. Going down to Richmond and talking to our legislators and saying, this is where we need you to change the law or modify the law, is where they will hear you. Because they're coming from the perspective that you are the person who's in that community, entrusted to protect that community. So of course you might have something to say that's going to be most helpful to that community. And that's where the impact will be, as far as the influences that you could have down in Richmond to make those changes.
And I love how you use the word holistic, because in many regards, whether it's mental health or other issues, we've taken a patchwork effect, right, that has not been successful, or maybe has been successful in the short term, but is not successful in the long term. So talk a little bit about your willingness and your ability to create important partnerships within the county, within other counties around the Commonwealth, and with the state, because I think your approach to not just mental health, but to other issues in a holistic way is something that we really need right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. As I indicated, I'm a businesswoman. So we always are looking to get services and how to come to the right solution for our clients. And how do we do that is by pulling in resources.
Right.
As a judge, I was tasked with the opportunity to be able to hear what the facts of the case are and to come up with a solution. As a lawyer, my whole effect has always been this: what brought you before me? What brought you into my office? Rare is the time that somebody's going to see a lawyer because everything is awesome.
Right.
Right? So you got to figure out is what happened. Rare also is the time that you're coming before that attorney because of one incident, one day. It's usually a series of traumas that are coming across. So that a lot of building up had to happen for that incident to become a crisis. So our approach has always been, let us understand what brought you here historically. Then what was the incident that made it the crisis? And then how do we get you into a situation where you have the best support system that you can have, so that you're not coming back before the court? Because then that's when the system works. We resolve the issues. We provided for you the opportunities, and not because it's something that we gave to you, but by just identifying different resources. So that has been 25 years of my doing. I bring that same approach to the Office of the Commonwealth Attorney, which is bringing businesses in. When we start talking about reentry programs, they need to be invested in the people who were formerly incarcerated.
Right.
You know why? Because we need them to have jobs. They need to support their families, pay for their housing, pay for their children, be able to come and pay for the taxes. So it's not just, I don't want to make it sound like it's just a tax-based incentive, but it's to say this is also what gives that person self-worth.
Right.
And the more we have them knowing that we're invested in them, the more they invest in the community, and we don't have recidivism.
Right.
So this is what we end up doing, is we're able to take that approach by saying this, let's cut the stuff out, which is just a matter of all we're doing is breaking somebody, and then when they come back, we wonder why they're not successful. Well, because you have not given them the opportunity for success. Let's give you the opportunity for success. That's not going to work 100% for everybody, but for the people it does, we've now reintegrated them in the community. For those who haven't, you're right, there's other paths, but the majority of the people will be compliant.
Right.
So that's what we want to be able to do is work that synergy and that, as we indicated earlier, the holistic approach by bringing the community together and providing the services, because individually, we again yet cannot do it alone. We're not as strong.
Absolutely. Now you are out in the community. Now you're active on your own in the community, but especially with pending election, you're at community events, you're knocking on doors, you're really connecting with people. What are you hearing from folks? I mean, what are the issues that are keeping people up at night? What are they talking about around their dinner table right now?
I think the most awesome thing about this has been, I've always thought myself to be a people person. But it's always so because I've had a trapped audience, which is somebody's coming to my office and looking for solutions.
Sure.
But now this is a free-for-all conversation, and I realize the goodness in our community is the goodness in our people. And I was warned earlier that I couldn't use certain words on stage, but I am going to throw out that F word at one time. It's going to be fair. People are very intent on being fair. They want fairness in the criminal justice system. They want fairness in the courts. They want fairness in our community so that people are having opportunities to be successful. And when we share stories with them about how things are not working within our criminal justice system, they are interested and engaged to say, how do we change it? And we tell them, how you change it is you have to change the culture. You're not going to change the culture if you've got people who've been in office for 15, 25 years that are doing the same thing over and over and over again, because it's not changing. And when you have somebody who now for an election year is saying, oh yes, I believe in these things, but for the last 25 years you haven't done anything, well, that's not really somebody whose walk follows the talk.
Right.
I'm a person with solutions. I talk to them just like I'm talking to you. This is what we want to do as a community, and I need you to help us. So we need to figure out is how do you, as another fellow community member, can come into our school systems and be a mentor. Because if we can keep the kids out of the criminal justice system, yet again, we've won. If we can have the situation where somebody who is in the jails, if they can have somebody who can teach them when they come out how to get a resume, how to apply for a job, how to get housing, yet again, we win because we've provided safety and stability. So those are things that really are not a crazy conversation where people look at you and going, oh my God, you're this liberal or this crazy person out in the world talking about just letting criminals out and be free. I said, no, I've been in Loudoun County for 25 years. Yeah. When I open my door to my house, I want to be very safe, and I want my family to be safe.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to do is bring in that community effect, and they're very inviting of that.
I think fairness is the best F word I can think of. So tell us a little bit about where folks can go to learn more about you.
Our website is www.biberaj2019.com. We're very active on Facebook, Twitter, social media, so they can just look us up.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Thank you. No, thank you. This is...
Nice going, Spencer. I can't believe we broke old man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do? We? Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtleback.
You're so dead. I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
Hey.
See you, dude. See ya. You got me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about rooftop life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
prevent wildfires. Fire!
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover. And for our final segment, we have Atoosa Reaser, who is running for school board in Loudoun County. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And I want to start out by thanking you for running for office and having the courage to put your name on the ballot, because so much is at stake this year. And I want to talk a little bit first about your experience and how your experience in the community, whether it be a Boy Scout leader to an activist, all of the many things you do, the boards you serve on, how that will make you a great school board member.
Sure, thanks for asking. So we have lived in the Loudoun community for nearly 20 years.
Yes.
So being amongst the families and the kids that I want to help is, I think, one of the most important things that qualifies me for this job. As an LCPS parent for over a decade, I have had the opportunity to interact with all different kinds of the school system, whether it was special education, gifted education, or regular education. We've personally had experience with each of those different avenues. So I think as a mom and a community member, that's where my heart first led me to look at running for the school board. But of course I have a professional background in both education and law, and I do serve on both a countywide team as well as having been qualified as a guardian ad litem by the Virginia Supreme Court. So the intersection of education and law is something that's been a part of my life for a long time.
And such an important intersection in this particular position too. And I think your experience brings a unique skill set to the board. And can you talk a little bit about, when you're elected, what your priorities will be on the school board?
Sure. So I think it all begins and ends with the kids. That is the business of what schools are about, and by extension, the educators. So when I think about the kids and the educators, my priorities are, first, they need to feel safe, because in order to be able to teach or learn, you need to feel comfortable in the environment you're in. And to me, safety means more than just security, which is what some people think of. I think you need to have infrastructure that is up to date, and there needs to be some consistency from experience from one school to another.
Right.
In terms of what coursework is available to you, the quality of teaching that's happening, and the space that you're in. I guess another layer to it all would be along the lines of parity of experience. You want to have good qualified teachers that can stay within the county for the entirety of their career. And the reason I point that out is, right now, if you decide to spend your entire career in Loudoun, you make 6 figures less than if you're in a neighboring county. So I think we need to do a little bit better for our educators who are teaching, as well as the staff who need to be able to live in a very expensive area. So I'd like to see us work a little bit on making the living wage equation better for them. So if we address those things, then the next layer would be making sure that our parents have a say in the educational policies that we make that take us back to number 1 and number 2.
Right. And I love how you put kids, our children, our students first and foremost. I love hearing that, because ultimately that is who we're working to shape and ensure they have the opportunities they deserve. Talk a little bit, if you will, about when you're elected, how you'll really engage with students and make them a part of your policy making process.
So I've started doing that already. I had the opportunity this summer to talk with recent graduates about what their experience at LCPS was like. Our goal is to make sure that our graduates are ready to either go to work, continue with their vocational training, or go on to college. So I felt like the best place to start would be to see where the recent graduates fall on the spectrum of feeling they had a quality education that prepares them to be adults.
Right.
And in that vein, I've already had the opportunity to have some public forums where we did a panel that had Q&A. So having input from their parents and other community members has also been helpful in that regard. So some ideas I have for continuing that are really to be able to spend time in the schools. And over the last year, since I filed my campaign committee, I've actually toured all of the schools in all but one. I'm waiting for that principal to set something up in the Algonquian district, which is where I'm running. I've had an opportunity to see the facilities and talk with the principals and hear about what their specific student populations need, and it's vastly different from one school building to the next, even within a small zip code. And another idea I had was after touring the cafeteria at one of the high schools and hearing about Nacho Day being a really popular day, I asked them if I could come back and help them serve food one day on Nacho Day so that you just be in the thick of things.
Right. And being accessible, right? I think that's really so important, is ensuring that not only students know they can come to you, but parents and teachers and educators can come to you as well. I think that's so important. It sounds like you're already doing that.
I'm trying, that's for sure. Yeah.
Now, you spoke a little bit about the Algonquian district. For our viewers, because we do have viewers from all over the Commonwealth, can you talk a little bit about what area of Loudoun that encompasses?
Sure. So we are the furthest east. We border with Fairfax.
Okay.
So it's mostly Sterling. And Sterling, there is also a Sterling district within Loudoun County that's a little bit further south than Algonquian. So we are along the Potomac.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So neighbors to Fairfax.
Exactly.
I'm sure you will find yourself in many positions to work with county officials in Fairfax. Obviously, as well as your county officials in Loudoun.
Yes, in fact, I've had the opportunity with one of your earlier guests. Karen and I have spoken about the different regional issues that both of the counties face and ways that we can collaborate on working specifically with regard to the governor's school, Thomas Jefferson, which is within her county, but takes students from LCPS.
Right.
So I've already started developing those relationships.
That's fantastic. Now, I know you have been so active in your community for so many years, and we had the opportunity to meet several years ago, and you have just been on the forefront of so many different issues. So, campaigning doesn't necessarily start your process of listening to constituents, but I'm always interested in talking to candidates, because you are out there, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, connecting with people that maybe aren't naturally already connected within your county. And from a parent's perspective and being, active in your community, what are you hearing from parents, or even students? I mean, what are they worried about, and what do they want to plan for to ensure that they continue to go to one of the best school districts in the country?
So there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first and the most important is they want to be heard, which is exactly your question. They feel sometimes that the input that they're giving doesn't actually make a difference. So I think we can help parents first by letting them know what the school board's looking at and thinking about and deciding.
Right.
And that exists already in some forms, but it's sometimes a little difficult to get at. You have to dig, you have to know how to get at the information. So one of the things I started doing a year ago was pushing out on social media in different ways the agenda that the school board had for upcoming meetings, so that parents would know this is the time that they're having the ability to go and give public comment or write an email to their representative. And in addition to these opportunities for input, other outreach opportunities like regular office hours, maybe within the district, I think is something that I'm hearing at the doors they would like to have. And the opportunity to have the ideas they give followed up on, to hear back on why something worked or didn't work. So input and outreach is something that they're looking for. In more specific terms about issues, I think parity of experience is something that comes up a lot in Loudoun. They feel like what zip code you live in, whether you're in one of the older schools or the newer schools, tends to have a big impact on the experience their kids are having.
Well, and making sure that it doesn't matter where you live in terms of the quality of education that you get, I think is incredibly important. You know, you have talked a little bit previously about teacher pay, and you referenced something that I want to go back to because it was very striking to me, that if a teacher or educator starts their career in Loudoun County and ends their career in Loudoun County, they will make significantly less than if they were to start their career and end their career in surrounding counties. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I've never heard that figure before, and it is very striking.
It is, and it actually used to be quite a bit more, and there's been a lot of improvement. The current school board has worked to make it better, and right now, if you start in Loudoun County, you have the highest pay, but the SAG is kind of in the middle.
Okay.
So I think that's where we need to focus on making improvements for our educators.
Because I knew the start was higher, but I guess it's deceiving when you look at the entire length of a career.
Right.
So there's not as much upward progression in salary then as...
In the middle. So at the end of your career in Loudoun County, there is improvement.
Okay.
But in the middle, there's a SAG. And I think that's particularly important because while having fresh ideas and new teachers is exciting and great, they get all of the experience and the training, and then they're faced with, do I stay or do I go?
Sure.
And 6 figures over the span of a career is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. So it's more of a retention issue and making sure that you can retain good, devoted teachers in the county.
Right. And I think professional development is also something else that is great, but I'm hearing from the educators at the doors that they would like opportunities to have the professional development directly from the trainers, whereas sometimes now we have a few people get trained and then help others by repeating the training.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Now, we have elections every year in Virginia, but this one feels particularly important. Can you talk a little bit about what's at stake in this election, and not just for residents of Loudoun County, but in many regards for the entire Commonwealth?
Sure. So this is the year where the entire school board changes. The entire Board of Supervisors changes. And a lot of people don't realize they have 2 school board representatives and 2 Board of Supervisors representatives. And there are also state Senate and state delegate races, along with the Commonwealth's attorney and other state countywide seats. But in particular, I think the 2 boards are so important to our everyday life, and the ability of the 2 boards to work together is really important. So I think that makes this particular year especially important to Loudoun County.
Our quality of life issues, right, are essentially on the ballot this November. Now tell us real quickly where people can go to learn more about you.
Sure, it's pretty easy. My website's just my first and last name, so it's AtoosaReaser.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook and on Twitter.
Thank you for being with us tonight.